Hey guys, David Hine here. Talk to you about Geo 7 today from 511 Tactical. I'm going to take this hat off because I'm not comfortable as some in a boonie hat. So really excited to be here today. You can see the pattern. We've got it up on the wall here behind us. I'm wearing the Geo 7 terrain. What I'm even more excited about is to introduce our partner, Veil Camo and Joe Skinner. Joe, come on in.
David.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So for those that have not met Joe, he was with us at SHOT Show this past January. He is the founder and developer of Geo 7. He basically runs Veil Camo. You can see on his shirt that he's got on there. And as such, he helped us develop this over the last couple of years and bring it to market. So we'll jump right into the presentation, and don't forget, ask questions as we go. Randy's with us this morning. We've also got Julie and Vanessa in the room to keep it light here so we don't get too serious. And we're excited to be here in front of you this morning. How many people we got on, Randy?
We have about 60.
60 people. So from around the world. So good evening, good morning, about probably nighttime for some of you. So again, excited to be here. We're going to send this live taping out to you as well. And like I said, you'll get a copy of this deck. So just jumping into the presentation, first and foremost, for those of you who already have heard about Geo 7, a lot of you have already gotten product placed out in the market. We've got a number of wear tests going on as we speak around the world, from South America to Europe to the United States, Mexico. But as we talked about some time back, it is an exclusive license to own partnership with Veil Camo. So what's unique about that is the product and all the camouflage in terrain night. We're working on a couple other colorways. Is exclusive to 511. You cannot find Geo 7 or get Geo 7 anyplace else on the planet. The initial product offering, which we'll go through here in a few minutes, is focused on our Guardian customer base. Think if they're in another camouflage, tactical camouflage that you guys may have heard of, that we sell some of too. Think if they're in that, they should be in Geo 7. That's who this is targeted at, those special teams, SWAT officers, K9 officers, anybody in a camouflage tactical uniform today is who we're targeting this. And obviously, since we're in front of you here in October, we're launching this fall, and product is arriving and already shipping as we speak. So I'm going to turn it over to Joe. He's going to talk about the science and math behind the technology, how it works, which is critical to how you guys go out and sell this, all right? Absolutely. So knowing, listening, understanding why we did what we did and why Joe has put together what he has is critical to the success of this program and why it's better than any other camouflage product on the market today. So Joe, I'll turn it over to you. I'll be back in a couple minutes.
Perfect, thanks. All right, so just very quickly, I'll touch on who Veil is and why we do what we do, and then I'll jump into what sets us apart, and then I'll dive into the technical details of the camo so we can distill it down and you have some great information. So at our core, Veil Camo cares completely, singularly about making the absolute best concealment for those who demand more. We're talking about end users who rely on the absolute best so that they can operate at their highest level. So that's really, I mean, there's more verbiage there on the screen, feel free to read it, but at our core, what we really care about is trying to push the state-of-the-art of camouflage and concealment forward and make it accessible in very powerful ways for the best brands. Some of the things that set us apart, we use a 4-tier design process, and I'll get into each one of these in a little bit more depth later. But we utilize camouflage theory, and these are tried and true principles that have been well researched, well documented, that have been observed throughout the natural world. We also use data in research into vision and perceptions through a huge range of animals. Knowing what they can see and what they can't see, including humans, really does fuel our design process. Third, we use a mathematical set of concepts in how we form and shape and manipulate all of our patterns. And this is all derived from the way that the natural world builds itself through all the form and all the chaos. And I'll kind of explain how you can see this and how it informs Geo 7 here a little bit later. We also derive all of our colors from the target environment to ensure that we have a color palette that's going to work extremely well in that target environment through a huge range of environmental conditions, outliers, all that stuff. And last but not least, this is one of the things that really does differentiate us with our partners, is that we have a limited licensing and preferred partnership model. And this essentially, one of the problems in the camo market is you walk down the aisles and you look across the aisles and people are using the same camouflages. There's not a lot of differentiation between the brands. And so on top of pushing forward the effectiveness and the utility of camouflage itself, we are creating differentiation in those spaces so that a brand, you see that brand, it not only is an exciting product, but you know it's them before you even have to pick up the tag and look. So that's pretty much the differentiation. So let's get into the principles that fuel Geo7. So this is developed as a advanced concealment platform, and this utilizes a core set of ideas that really fuel everything that we do, but it's designed to slow response time in the onlooker and really evade detection through the use of, and I promise I'll explain this stuff, it can get a little heady sometimes, but it's macro disruption, micro disruption, and along those same lines, you won't be tested on this, I don't think. David, are they going to be tested?
They may be tested.
Okay, you're probably going to be tested. Disruptive mimetic coloration, that's kind of along the lines of the micro disruption, which I'll point all this stuff out in the pattern behind me. But scalable concealment and what that means here in Geo7, and then the mathematical edge that really pushes it forward.
So Joe,
Yo.
knowing we've got 60 plus people on the video, those are a lot of big words.
I know.
Right? I mean,
I'll
there's
slow down.
mathematic disruption,
That's
macro.
not right. That's not, you didn't get it right.
I didn't get it right. That's why I'm saying there's a lot of big words.
That's
so
true. It's true. I'll
you're going to
explain
go
it.
through and
I will.
explain
I promise.
all these things, right? Because
Yeah.
that's really what the team's looking for.
Well, I mean,
right?
I'm kind of, nose down in this stuff every day.
I know you are.
Have to pull it up and
Right?
yeah.
I refer
explain
to
it.
Joe as the mad scientist, right? I do that.
I don't have a
tongue in
lab coat,
cheek.
not
He
yet.
doesn't have a lab coat, but we're going to get him one in Geo7. So he
Oh,
can
that'd be
walk
so
around
good.
professionally. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks,
but
David.
Important to go through those.
I will. I promise. I promise. All right. Let's do next slide. We'll get into it. Yeah. All right. So before I dive, head deep into this, let's talk briefly about how humans see. And this is just cursory stuff that would be useful to know to understand how this pertains to this product. The human visual system's very well adapted to see a wide range of colors. We don't see the most in all of the animals on Earth, but the way we utilize it in our brains is extremely powerful. So we have the ability to perceive detail with a very wide range of binocular vision, 120 degrees. We are very, very good predators. Next slide. Awesome. Yeah, so our ability to detect patterns and symmetry and movement, shape, really creates a significant problem when it comes to concealment, a big problem. And a lot of research has been done for well over 100 years on how our brains and how these concepts end up working. How does the natural world account for this type of thing? How do we recognize shape and movement and patterns throughout the natural world? And so a lot of that data and research fuels what we do as a company. Okay, all right, let's break it down. The first thing that we are doing here in Geo7 is we are breaking up the human silhouette, right? So humans can see the overall shape and form very quickly. We're very good at seeing other humans very quickly. So what we do to combat this is we take large contrasting regions of color and shape that run counter to the symmetry of the human form, right? And so this is called boundary disruption. Boundary disruption. And this is very akin to what the old battleships in World War I, World War II used to do with their huge irregular shapes called razzle-dazzle. And I believe you guys have a pretty good lock on that concept. But, so yeah, that's how it's implemented there. And if you take a look, don't zoom in, keep it zoomed out, you begin to see really large swaths of contrast. You've got your lights, you've got your darks. And I'll explain why it's broken up the way it is in the following slides. Cool. Micro disruption. Become your surroundings. This is all about texture and fading into the environment. We're good at identifying patterns and shapes, yes. So anything that is repeating or it seems out of place in the natural world, it's going to trigger us really quick and we're going to see it. Or we're going to at least look at it and trying to figure out what we don't quite understand. We use micro disruptions, the basic term. Disruptive mimetic coloration is the super lab coat term. But this concept basically, in a nutshell, caramelizing it, creates a texture derived from the target environment that allows you to, in focal vision, make it harder to identify what shape you are. In peripheral vision, you just fade right into your background. It's pretty cool. All right, so color matching. I touched on this just briefly earlier, but none of this makes any sense if we're not using the right colors. So in developing the right color palettes for this platform, both terrain and night, what we did was take a hard look at the range of environments this needs to operate in and pull very specific colors, starting with the most neutral, most applicable base, and then we build percentages of colors based on the needs that we are calculating out. And so that's what you see behind me and all of this on the hat. That's the result, is this color palette that's very versatile across this wide range of conditions. All right, this is where it starts to get really fun if you haven't been, put to sleep yet. So the interesting thing, the way that all of this works is the combination of all of these big shape disruption and small shape disruption, micro and macro. We blend them together in a way that creates scalability, meaning you're up close and all of that texture is really going to kick in. Yes, please, any questions, fire them down there. So you've got all these small shapes up close doing their business. As you get further out, that's when all of the macro or large shape disruption starts to kick in. And you can actually see it there a little bit on the slide. This is just a mock-up, but as that figure starts to get further into the distance, you can really see how this concept works. You're starting to really, it kind of blends into itself. What's up?
So Joe, that's great. I mean, and talking about how is this relevant to the team?
That's
right?
a great question.
Who's wearing it, right? So you guys got a good view of the mannequin here and how it's blending into the background, right? This is the night. Obviously, I didn't have a night background, but if we did, they'd blend in an urban tactical environment. So think about, you've got a stack of SWAT officers going in a front door to a bad person's house because they're doing something bad that they shouldn't be, right? So you've got a stack of SWAT officers that's got to have as much time as they can to get in there without alerting the people that are in the house that they're there, right? A half second or even a full second can make all the difference in the world. So the people's ability outside the house, inside the house, to see through the windows what's going on, break up that human form, as you indicated, is key to the success of any camouflage, right? Giving them literally, and we've heard it from a number of officers around the world, sometimes all we need is a half second to get us where we need to get to and do what we need to do. So again, as Joe's mentioned, this pattern does that better than anything else on the market today. So I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Wanted to make it relevant.
I mean, it's those mission critical situations that really call for this type of depth, right? And this type of thought put into what it's going to have to accomplish. Absolutely. Great point. Great. So this pattern looks the way it does because we built it we built it like nature. So what that means is we use two mathematical concepts. This is we're going over the deep end again. We use fractal math and we use chaos math. And this is, I mean, I know, lab coats everywhere. But the cool thing about this, and this gets me so excited, nature tends to grow and develop itself in self-repeating patterns called fractals. Google it. It's a thing. But they're not perfect. They're far from perfect. And we account for the imperfections and irregularities with a concept called chaos theory. And we blend those two ideas together. Yes, any questions, fire them out there. We blend those two ideas together in a very decisive way to create and form and manipulate all of these patterns so that they're going to be at home in a huge variety of environments. So you've got all of these things cooking together to create this platform. Cool. So if you remember anything from what I've said, the most important thing that you can remember is this slide, basically. A large percentage of patterns on the market from very major pattern developers, companies, etc., don't fully address all of the issues that the end user needs to keep them concealed across a huge variety of conditions. So I think that most of them will only deal with maybe one or two issues, being big shape disruption. You've got big blocky shapes of color, that'll break you up, cool, but it does nothing for texture. And then a newer trend in the last 10 years has been shifting more towards only texture. We'll see texture-based patterns, but they don't do anything to break up the overall symmetry of the human form. So we're not getting a cohesive, well-rounded pattern that's going to really serve the end user. It leaves too many holes. We've got a question here. Tim is asking, where has this pattern been tested? In an urban environment, concrete, jungle? All right, this is a great question. It has been tested in a range of conditions. So this pattern is built to be able to go between these different environments. So terrain obviously is a bit like an all-purpose. It's not going to be specifically jungle or specifically arid or whatever. This is designed to be middle of the road, to be able to operate in semi-arid, even bordering on arid, into very lush environments. And because of its color palette and the way it breaks apart the human outline and signature, it also works very well in urban environments. It's been tested. We've done location testing, photography. Obviously, that's all going to be in-house and closely guarded, but those tests are, I mean, the R&D process takes quite a bit of time. And you guys have also done a lot of testing.
So great question, Tim. Thanks. I knew you would ask a question because you always do. You're good about that. What's great is that we have the ability, as Joe mentioned, from a scientific, mathematical standpoint, in the environment that we're in. It's good that you're asking that as well. Mr. Eric Katzenberg is out on the East Coast doing a video and photo shoot on Geo7 as we speak. We'll show you a couple of initial snapshots that he sent me last night, so you can see how it's working. We've had it on a number of wear test teams in the last couple months, both domestically and internationally. We'll share some of that photography coming up here towards the end of the presentation as well. But key here is get it out in the field, right? As I always say, don't take our word for it. Get it on bodies. Our goal being it works as many places as it can. It unlikely will work everywhere for everybody, but we do feel that it'll work better than anything that's out there today. But again, the key is get this on some bodies out there in the field, get this in departments and agencies, regardless of where you're at in the world. Let them tell you how it works and how it performs. I can tell you the initial feedback we've gotten from whether it be South America, Europe, the United States, has all been very positive. And again, in due in large part to people are looking for different than what's out there, right? They're looking for something that does more than what they've seen out there on the market today. So I'll turn it back over to you so we can continue on. And we'll answer questions as we get to them.
Absolutely. That's another good question. Do we have any third-party testing results on Geo7 versus blah, blah, blah? Yeah, right. Good. This is good.
No, we do not.
No.
As it relates to that specific question, right? Again, we've got to get this product out there in the field. So take the product that we've got, get it on bodies, get it out there in the field, get the feedback so we can get it rolling. Unfortunately, much like whether it was multicam with Natick or the ATAX pattern that's been out there, all the patterns that have been tested out there in the market around the world, We have not got to that level. Keep in mind, we just started shipping this in the last 30 to 45 days, so we've got to get it out there in the field to get the feedback. I do anticipate as we get contracts on this product, and those are, I think, coming pretty quickly, that we will soon, if not later, certainly start that testing as needed, relevant to getting, if there's a specification that says I need you to do X test, Y test, we can certainly go out there and look at those as they come about.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And I will say, just along those lines, I have paid very close attention to the test data from all of those other guys and how they operate. Just saying. So all of these things go into how we build these platforms. So let's do the that final slide of mine. I think it's my final one. Yeah. So just to sum it up, and David pretty much already said this, but Geo7 really addresses all the challenges by incorporating the careful balance of all these different principles behind making an extremely effective and lethal camouflage platform. So we're talking micro, macro, all the math, all the color, and it really, I mean, it's going to make Geo7 turn heads. A lot of positive feedback already and how it's operating, but yeah, very effective camouflage, and I appreciate the time. If there's any more questions, please let me know, and thank you, David.
Great, thanks, Joe.
You bet, man.
Hang around here in the room for a little while. So we're going to go again, keep popping in the questions as they come up. You noticed I did take off the camo. I did want you guys to see me. It was like a green screen, blue screen thing going on. I couldn't see myself in the screen, so I kept wondering if I was in the right spot or whatever. So I took off the camo. So product, and you guys have seen this deck. You should have the brochures. The brochures are out there online. You guys can reference them. They're PDFs. You can send them to dealers. You can send them to agencies, departments. You can email that document. It's user friendly. So 2 colorways in Geo7. So 1 camo pattern, 2 colorways, right? Terrain that you see here on the screen, and night, right, that you see standing beside me as well. So, and the reason we've got this mannequin to my facing backwards is this is the AMP 24 in Geo7 night. The mannequin over here has the TacTec plate carrier in terrain. Everything that I'm about to show you style-wise comes in both patterns, both terrain and night, right, from a product standpoint. So let's click through the product slides. And again, you guys are going to get a copy of this deck. You've already seen the relevant slides that we're going to go through, but wanted to just make sure everybody was aware of all the product that we're going to manufacture, because we're not just stepping into this in small steps. We're going into this full tilt, going right into the program in a big way, because we do expect this to be one of the biggest launches that we've had in the company's history. So again, just some good visuals here on the screen. You can actually see it mocked up on some individuals, and a couple pictures towards the end of